This bus stop was one of the very first bus stops I ever took. I took it in 2002 when I was riding my bike, and it's in Lithuania, just north of Poland. And this was one of the first ones that I really fell in love with because it just seemed so perfect, just really well thought out and cute and like a little dollhouse. It just felt like a little dream world on the side of the road. In Lithuania, there was quite a number of bus stops on this sort of scooping theme, but this was one of my favorites because it felt quite delicate, but still, yeah, just really striking. Like it was going to go somewhere. It had movement to it. When we were in Kazakhstan, this was one particular bus stop in which an old lady was yelling at me while I was taking pictures of it. What I found was quite interesting about the whole sort of confrontation where this woman thought I was taking pictures of something that was negative was the fact that it was quite obvious that someone also did care for this bus stop because it was freshly repainted. The actual art was being maintained. This one here is taken near Lake Izikul in Kyrgyzstan. This is one of my favorites just because it just feels so absurd that someone would make a bus stop the shape of a hat. But it's also just fantastic, just sort of the pride in their own culture and just to put it out there as a bus stop. This was one of the first bus stops that I encountered that I started to question the whole purpose of some of these bus stops because the functionality as a bus shelter with this one, like kind of huddling under the wings of this bird, just seemed outrageous. From this bus stop on, I started thinking that, okay, maybe this wasn't actually always meant to be the traditional bus stop as we know it, but somewhere between just a great way of bringing art to the people and knowing where the bus stops. I only found one shaped like this, and this to me is just shows I don't know, the creativity and the imagination of the bus stop makers. I mean, this is really in the middle of nowhere, and they're really trying to make something that's different and kind of fun, and it really seems alive and it has its own sort of character of its. It looks like it's going to walk away or something or bark at you. A lot of the bus stops I really found exciting were often in the middle of nowhere, and this one was just there in the middle of this dry, barren land. It was just amazing how it's still quite intricate and it's still maintained as well, although there's no other roads or no towns. So exactly what the bus was stopping for, I'm not sure. Here's a bus stop in the Ukraine, and I just love the dreamy nature of a lot of the bus stops, and I think that's what sort of also really attracts me to the whole theme of it. It just seems like a lot of make believe and a lot of sort of not really fairy tale, but it's just that it really felt like people's imagination could just go wild and they could just do whatever they wanted on it. These were interesting because as well, just the environment they were in. There was a factory behind it, and it showed kind of how bus stops often related to their surroundings, I think, as well. And these I just remind me of, I don't know, something that would like fall out of space or and just the geometry of it, and I think they're really cool. This is in Armenia, and I think it's just a fantastic bus stop with this just very simple curve. And in its time, it was. I mean, this one is definitely falling apart quite a lot. But if you look closely, the whole thing would have been covered with a mosaic on the inside, which must have looked spectacular in its time. But it's just interesting the way now it's just part of the landscape and part of people's lives. This is also in Armenia. And for me, it was kind of like, because we'd been driving for hours. I hadn't really seen anything. And I mean, and then to come to like this one section, which just like felt like the golden mile of bus stops. Literally every 2 kilometers, there was a different bus stop. And they were all just original and creative and beautiful. I mean, it felt like this land was like an art gallery. Some of the finest bus stops in the world were made in Abkhazia. A lot of them by Zurab Tsereteli, a Georgian who has now gone on to build lots of big monuments around the world. And these were some of his first creations. And I mean, this one here, it's a quite popular beach resort area. This one's probably only maybe an hour's drive from Sochi. You could actually see the hockey stadium from across the bay. This one is another one of these little sections of like every 500 meters, another bus stop. And not really any reason for this bus stop being this big. And again, like it looks like some kind of a structure, but if you go inside it, there's no roof to it. So it's not like it's going to protect you from the rain or anything. It's just a piece of art, really. This is literally an octopus shaped bus stop where it was very uncomfortable to even get inside it. But there seemed to be some ruins of places where there were benches. So the thought was to design it as a bus stop where people could sit in the octopus and wait for the bus to come. But I mean, now it's unfortunately really deteriorating. This is the last one here. I took just before New Year's last year, and this one, when I'd seen it, I wasn't gonna photograph it. I was just like, that's not that old. It looks really modern. There's glass involved, but I still thought it was just a really cool looking bus stop. And then I started looking closer, and it was actually quite old. This is in Estonia, close to the Russian border. When I was inside the bus stop, I found graffiti from like bus travelers from the 80s, sort of carved in there, like some kind of a Moscow to Riga bus trip. So that was really, really nice to see that this was part of the collection and it wasn't just some sort of a new creation.